Hi YouTube, here we are sometime in January 2025 and I'm gonna dig out one of my snowmobiles. So just for future reference, perhaps from my son or to my son, I just wanted to share with the younger generation. Maybe you have a dad or a grandpa that has one of these old Skidoos and it's been in storage maybe for a while, but these are some of the tips that I would recommend to help get her going. Anyways, we'll start out with this machine. It's been sitting here for, I don't know, 8 months probably, and it's an old 98, I think a 98, maybe 97 bombardier, the 2-stroke motor. And normally when I put these things away, I add fuel stabilizer to them, which is, I think, a key ingredient. Typically I drain out as much gas as I can, put in the fuel stabilizer, just get it from the hardware store, Walmart, Canadian Tire, that sort of stuff, and throw a little in the gas that's left over in the tank. You can't sometimes get it all out. I don't normally get it all out because I just use a siphon method. Anyways, throw in some of that stabilizer, then start the engine for one last time, let it run for a few minutes, get the juice to go, the conditioned gas to get into the carburetors and etc., and shut her down and kind of go from there. I usually put in mothballs here and there under the cowling and try to help keep the mice out of there. Anyways, this thing's fully exposed, mostly to the weather and certainly to the mice. So the first thing we want to do is to make sure there's no mice in there, give it a clean off, etc. Let's take a look. Well, looks like I can't get the cowling up due to my clearance from sitting under this camper. So I guess I'm going to try to move it. It's kind of frozen into the ground, but let's give it a shot. Well, that was frozen in there pretty good. It was the skis that were quite tight. Typically, these things are not light. Ay, ay, ay. You might need help. Sometimes it's better to get help. So, save backache. You do? What do you think, buddy? You gonna get her going? Hey, Duke? Buddy, you want a treat? Duke, how about a treat? Treat? What? Oh, yeah. We like treats. All right. Okay, there we go. I think it's out enough. So first off, I'm gonna clean out some of the old mothball bags. There you go. Some snow out of there. Now it's always a good idea to check for mice nests because sometimes the mothballs don't work. Not sure why that happens. Normally they work fine, but every so often, who knows? You get some mice that can't smell that much. They have, I don't know, zinc deficiencies, like people. Okay, so make sure the spark wires are on there tight. Sometimes I do take them off, but they look fine. I don't see any nests, which is good. So at this point, it looks like there's no nests in there. That's the main area to look for. Now I'm going to put in some fresh gas. So on these two-stroke models, they need to have gas and oil mixed together, as most of you know. This particular snowmobile has a oil reserve that mixes automatically with the gas, and therefore you just have to make sure that that has oil in it, which is right here. There's the reserve. You can see it has oil in it, and I don't ever change that. I just add to it. Sometimes it's in there for a couple of years if I don't use the machine that much. And I think it lasts a long time. But I'm putting in fresh gas. This is just regular fuel. So a couple other things to make note of before you go to start up. One, you gotta have the key. Make sure the key is on and the kill switch is up. There's also I guess it's an emergency switch. Make sure that that's on there, because if it's not, it will not start. This particular machine, which something I really like, has a primer system for the fuel. You can prime the fuel before starting, and that's a little plunger button thing here, right here. Not there, right here. And typically, when you're first doing this, it takes several pumps before you start actually feeling the fuel go through it. And you can kind of see down in here when I go to pump it. One, it's jumping the lines. These are the primer lines. You can see that there's a bit of fuel getting in there. And that's fuel going directly closest to the cylinder down in here versus starting out on the outside of the carburetor and working in. It's direct fuel right to the cylinders. Anyways, let's give it a fire. There's no battery in this machine at the moment, but with this primer system, you hardly really need a battery to crank it over. It works quite well just by hand. So let's give it a shot. And I'm almost guaranteeing that this thing, and I literally don't do anything other than to remove the old fuel the end of the season, add some fuel stabilizer, and then run it through the machine a couple minutes, making sure it gets into the carb area. And I'm almost gonna guarantee that this thing will start within the first couple pulls. Amazing. So at that point, obviously it started a bit. When it stops, give it a couple more shots of the primer, and then give it a shot again with the pull cord. At this point, when it does start the second time, I'm gonna have my fingers ready or whatever on the primer, and if it starts to die down on the when it starts to idle low, just give it a little shot again. It'll pick it up, and it takes whatever, a good minute or more to kind of warm up, and then you don't have to do that. So that looks like it's gonna go, obviously, or whatever. Looks good to me. Another thing you want to check, that's quite important, is the oil that's in the transfer, kind of like the transmission, I guess, sort of transfer box. And there's a couple of gears in there and a chain. It's right down here, and there's a dipstick for the oil, and that oil is important, and they've been known to get a leak and go dry, and the next thing you know, you're stuck on the side of the trail because it overheats and something happens and the chain breaks, whatever. And then that's what's driving the track. On the other side of the machine is a belt, and that belt determines your speed. As you go faster, this clutch thing opens up and the belt drops down and spins the main shaft over to their transfer box, and then chain case, whatever it's called, and then down to the track. Anyways, that's a key component, and it needs to be properly checked, excuse me. So I'm just going to look into how that oil looks. There's a little magnet on it, and that magnet is designed to take up filings, and it doesn't look that clean, but a lot of that is the filings that have kind of worn off the chain and the sprockets or the gears, and then or I guess they're called sprockets. Anyways, they accumulate at the bottom of the case, transfer case, and then this magnet picks up. Anyways, it can look really, really dark. You're thinking, oh shit, I gotta change it. But clean it off, shove it back down there again. Look at it a second time. Yeah, I guess. It's getting a bit dirty. It probably needs to be changed. We're not going to do that at this moment. But the main thing is there's oil in there, and it will lubricate. It's not that dirty. Let that warm up a little bit more. Anyways, we'll give it another shot.